So this is the second video. This will cover forcing good U Perms, which is another PBL technique. So basically, forcing good U Perms is almost the same as normal Vandenberg CP-EP. However, you'll always get good U Perms as your EP. So first off, you should know the two good U Perm EPs as so. And if you notice, both the two good U Perms have a UL and a UR. So in other words, opposite sticker is on different sides. So notice how for this case is UL, UR, and for this one it's UR, UL. So since you know that the U Perm always have one UL and one UR, if let's say we knew what kind of U Perm we will get for each PL after doing CP, we can know whether we get a UL and a UR on each layer, aka we can know whether we get good U Perms, or we can force a UL and a UR together on each layer to ensure we always get good U Perms. So that's the main idea on how to force good U Perms. So first, I'll be going through what PLs give what kind of U Perms. So first off are these fixed PLs. So basically after you do CP, you always get the same kind of U Perm no matter the alignment. So first thing are the G Perms. So for G Perms, it just matters whether the block is on the left or on the right. It doesn't matter whether it's an opposite block or an adjacent block. So if the block is on the left, when we align the block and we solve CP by doing a J Perm, we get UL. So likewise, if we align the block when the block is on the right, when we align it, we do a J Perm and solve CP, you get UR. So same thing for adjacent blocks. Align the block on the left, notice how we get UL again. If we align the block on the right, we'll do a J Perm, you get UR. So that's the main idea of G Perms. So for R Perms, it's quite similar to G Perms actually. So again, we look at the block. So if the block is on the left, when we preserve the block into a J Perm, you get UL. Likewise, if the block is on the right, we preserve the block, it's already preserved, into a J Perm, you get UR. So both G and R Perms actually share the same concept, is where the block is, the opposite sticker will be at the same side. For A Perms, it's slightly different. So first thing is that the alignment of the block doesn't matter. So notice how because even though it's a 2x2 block, even if I line it differently, I'll still get the same kind of U Perm. So what kind of U Perm you get? Well, if we have the block on the left and we do a JJ, we get UR. So it's actually opposite this time. So likewise, for this A Perm, the block is on the right. When you do JJ, you get UL. So for A Perms, it's opposite to G Perms and R Perms. So if the block is on the right, you get UL. And if the block is on the left, you get UR. So next are J Perms. So J Perms, you could solve them normally by just doing JJ. However, for good U Perms, you want to force a U Perm on the other layer instead of only one layer. So that's why you may need to force a U Perm on the J Perm instead of solving it. So we look at the block on the end similar to R Perms. So for J Perms, we look at this like R-shaped block. So in this case, the block is on the right. When we misalign the blocks this time, because you don't want to solve the J Perm, when you do JJ, you get UR. Same thing, if this similar R block, is on the left, when we misalign the blocks and we do a JJ, you'll get UL. So this is actually very similar to R Perms as well. So only A Perms is the outlier, where the position of the block is opposite to the position of the opposite sticker. So these next PLs can force either U Perm depending on the alignment, as the blocks can be aligned in different ways. So the first PL that can force either U Perm is the T Perm. So for T Perms, if you align it, if we keep it aligned like this and we do a JPerm, notice how we get UL. But if we misalign it like this and do a JPerm, you get UR. So notice how the type of UPerm is different. The type of UPerm is different depending on the alignment. So the next PLs are Y perms. So they're actually very similar to D perms as well. So if we align the layer like this and we just solve CP by doing an N perm, we'll get UL. If we misalign it and we do an N perm, we get UR. So notice how it's the same concept. If we align it, we'll get UL, same thing with T perms, but if we misalign it, we'll get UR. So notice how T perms and Y perms, they actually share the same alignment technique. So the next PL are F perms. So for F perms, it's actually opposite. If we align the layer, we do a J perm by solving CP, we get UR. If we misalign the layer and we solve CP by doing a J perm, you get UL. So notice how this is opposite to T perms. So T perms was aligned, then you get opposite UL. But for F perms, it's aligned, gives you UR. So that's the main difference between the two. So the last PL are V perms, and they're actually again similar to F perms. So if we align the block, doesn't matter which angle. If we align the block, when we do an N perm, we actually get UR. If we misalign it like this, and we do an N perm, we get UL. So notice how it's the same thing as F perms. When we misalign it, we get opposite on the left, UL. But if we align it to the layer, we get UR. So those are the kind of U perms that each PL will give after you solve CP. So to show how this forcing good U perms method works, here are some example solves. So here's the first one. Okay, so I see I have GOL and RR, Joel RR. So for G perms, I know that if the block is on the left, I'll get UL. And for R perms, the block is on the right, so I know I will get UR. So I'll get UL, UR if I solve CP. So UL, UR is actually good U perms. So I actually just need to bring the headlights to the back, preserve the blocks as so, just do JJ and I'll get UU. So JJ into good U perms. So here's the next example solve. Okay, so I see I have RL, AL. So RL, I know that if I solve CP, I'll get UL. And for A perms, when I solve CP, I won't get UL because A perms will be opposite. So I'll get UR. So I'll get UL and UR for this PBL. So I know that I just need to preserve the blocks. It doesn't matter how I preserve the A, but I like to keep it the same alignment. So I know I'll get UL, UR. So I just have to do JJ. And I'll get good U perms. Here's the next example solve. Okay, so I see I have JM and I have an F perm. So first thing I know is that a J perm, in this case, I would like to force GoodUs on it. So since this block, right, this R block is on the left, I know I'll get UL. So I know that since the F perm can force either UL or UR, because I can force either based on alignment, I would like to force a UR. So for UR, all I just need to do is keep it aligned like this. And so I just need to break up all the J blocks. So in this case, I'm misaligning the blocks and I align it to force a UR. So when I do JJ, I'll get UL, UR, which is good U perms. I just need to solve. Here's the fourth example solve. Okay, so I see I have JOR because the opposite block on the right, and the V Perm. So for JOR, I know I'll get UR since the block is on the right. So I'd like to force a UL on the V Perm. Since I can force either, I want to force good U Perms. So to force UL, I remember that I have to misalign the V. So how it works, I'll set out in the same angle for JN because that's how you solve CP. So headlights on the left, and for V Perm, I just need to misalign it to force UL. So I know I'll get UR UL. I do JN. See that I get good U Perms. And here's the last example solved. Okay, so I see I have a Y perm on top and I have a F perm on bottom. So notice how I can force either UL UR for both of these cases. So let's see, for Y perms, if I also force UL, I have to force, if I also force UL, I have to force UR on this. So to force UL on Y perms, I know I have to align it, and to force UR on this, I know I also have to align it as well. So likewise, if I was to force UR on this, if I force UR on this, I'll have to force UL. So UR for this I'll misalign, and for UL also to misalign. So here you actually have two options. You can either align both or misalign both. So either method works. You'll still get good U Perms no matter what. So if I align it, I'll still get good U Perms. If I misalign both, I'll also get good U Perms. So it's really up to preference. You really have to play with either cases and see which one you prefer more. So if I was to align both, I just need to go into good U Perms like that, and I've solved it. Okay, so that's basically the main idea of how good U Perms work. But you may be wondering that some cases listed can be solved with both 2CP or GoodUs. So for example, AT, I could solve it with 2CP like this, JJ, and I'll get another JJ. Or I could solve it with good U Perms. So I could do JJ, and then I'll get UU. So which method should I use to solve some of these PBLs? So to decide on which method you should use, you should consider first off the slice count and also the angles, or the Barflip to pick the method. So for slice count, you have to first check for each method how many slices does it take to solve the PBL. So for this case, this is JOR. For the GoodUs, I can do JJ into UU, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 slices. But for 2CP, I can solve it in less slices because I know the NN is shorter than good U Perms. So I can do NN 1, 2, 3 into JJ 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 slices for 2CP, and good U Perms took 9 slices. So for this case, I will use 2CP instead of good U Perms. So you kind of have to check for each method which seems better based on slice count, and you can figure out which is the better method to use. So for angles, it's mainly about how comfortable you are with executing the ALX and the mid ABF. So for this case, this is AL and GAL since the block is adjacent on the left. For 2CP, what you'll do is you'll first find the pseudo block and align it, then find the actual block and align it as well. Then you have to do JN, and then you have to put the headlights at the back, you have to do a U2, and then you have to do JJ. So the mid ABFs for that and the recognition for 2CP isn't that great, but for the good U Perms, all you need to do is just bring the headlights to the back and just do JJ, and then you realize you get good U Perms. You just need to do a D prime and you'll get good use. So notice how for this, we just need to bring the headlights to the back, which made recognition much easier compared to having to find the pseudo block and the actual block, then moving it on the right instead of the front, and then having to do the mid ABF. So in this case, good U Perms is better than 2CP, and actually in general, I would suggest solving G Perm cases with good U Perms instead of 2CP, since the angles for G Perms and 2CP aren't that great compared to good U Perms, where you just need to bring the headlights to the back or to the left for JN. So lastly, to consider is Barflip. So for certain PBLs, you may choose to do a different solution depending on the bar is flipped or not, because it's more comfortable for you. So for this case, this is ART. So for ART, what you can do for 2CP is you solve it with JJ. It's JJ flip. Or for good U Perms, you may do JJ into UU. So both these solutions are actually 9 slices. However, you might prefer the good U Perms one because you're doing UU, which is a 5 slicer you're more accustomed to because you did it more in Vanderbilt CP-EP. And for JJ Plus, you might be less used to it because it's a newer L that you learn. So personally for me, I prefer the JJ flip one because there's less thinking involved in whether I'll get in what solution to do depending on whether I get Barflip or not, so I don't really have to care about Barflip. But you may prefer the 2CP, the good U Perm L, because it's just faster and you might have a faster solution for this case. So generally, it's basically up to you to pick which solution it works better for you. It's better to just play around and see which solutions do you prefer or are more comfortable for you. So that's all the main tips and techniques I have for forcing good U Perms. So the next video will be about all the 3, 4 and 5 slices you need to learn for all of 2L PBL.